everyone, and welcome to the program. My name is Kai Rasmussen, and this is the Razzie Show. And today we're going to be talking about the NHL Draft, a little bit of the outcome of it, and my top 5, my worst 5, and a little bit of what I think teams are going to be doing after the fact now, going into NHL free agency and obviously the season to come. So, without further ado, here we go. Well, guys, the 2025 NHL Draft is over and done with, and what a draft it was. The talent that was taken in this draft was unbelievable, in my opinion, and it really speaks volumes for the growth of this league in the future. The diversity that was taken in this draft, the amount of teams that really had a good draft was awesome this year. There wasn't many teams, and it was really hard actually to pick 5 teams that were the worst in this draft, but it was also really hard to pick the top 5 teams in this draft because there was a lot of teams that did really well. For me, though, the top 5 for me was the San Jose Sharks at number 1, the Philadelphia Flyers at number 2, the New York Islanders at number 3, the Calgary Flames at number 4, and the Boston Bruins at number 5. And a lot of people are probably going to say, well, how can you say that the Sharks had the best draft? Well, mostly because they picked the best player in the draft. And I know that, like I said, that's going to be a little bit controversial, but as much as Matthew Schaefer is an unbelievable talent, and I do feel he's going to be elite in the future, I feel that Michael Misa is a complete player and he is NHL ready. I feel that what he did with Shawinigan, not just this season, but the last couple seasons. Remember, he had that exceptional status in the OHL, but he also was a captain for this team this year, and he displayed his maturity on and off the ice. He really was a great leader for this team, and let's be honest, guys, his stats were incredible. In 65 games, he had 62 goals, 72 assists for 134 points, and I don't care what league you're playing in, it's hard to score goals, never mind 62, and for him to accomplish that this season was unbelievable. And with Celebrini and Will Smith, I feel that this team down the middle, especially, and even if they decide to put those 3 together at some point, this team's going to be a lot better with a guy like Michael Misa on their squad. And like I said, I really feel he's going to be in the lineup next season for this team. And I think not only is he going to be in the lineup, but I think he's going to be the front runner for the Calder Trophy next season. Another guy that they took in the first round was a little controversial as well. In Ravensburgen. He is a big 6'5" goaltender from the Prince George Cougars, and he didn't have as good a stats this season, but I feel that because he played so many more games this season, maybe that was part of the problem for him. I do feel, though, that he has a ton of talent, and with the San Jose Sharks, I feel that he's going to be able to grow and become that player that they want. He's 6'5". He's a right-handed glove, guys, which is really hard to shoot against for players, it seems, and I feel that with Askarov there, he's not going to be the number 1. He's not going to be pushed to be it, but he has the potential to become that. And I feel with Askarov as well that Ravensburgen is going to really push him forward in the future to try to keep his number 1 spot, because I think they're going to be a very good tandem at some point. Probably 2-3 years down the road, maybe even 4, but I really feel that the San Jose Sharks made a good pick in Ravensburgen. I also feel, though, that the real big steal for them was Wang in the second round. He's the highest picked Chinese player ever picked, and he is a guy that I think is really going to help this team. McKinney is another guy that I feel is a really good pick for them, and I'm going to butcher this name, but Mago Mendolzanov is going to be a really good player as well out of Russia. Wang and Mago Mendolzanov are really big boys, and I feel that they have a lot of athleticism. They play with that speed and size that you need at the defensive position. And I really feel they're going to play, maybe not full-time, but they're definitely going to play minutes in the NHL next year, especially with the Sharks roster the way it is. I feel that they have the potential to, at minimum, play those 9 games, whether it's at the beginning of the season or the end of the season. I think they're going to play those 9 games at least, and the San Jose Sharks' future is bright, guys, and it starts with Michael Misa. The Philadelphia Flyers, though, also had a very good draft, guys, and I was very skeptical of Danny Briere and what he was doing with the Philadelphia Flyers until this draft. And even with Rick Tocchet, I wasn't too sure, but now I see what they're doing. And Porter Martone, in my opinion, is going to be a future star, guys. He's a big man who can move well. He's got extremely good skills, and I feel that he's got that leadership as well. He was the captain of his Steelhead team in the OHL. He played World Junior competition, and he really showed that he had matured as a player this season. I feel that he's going to be a guy that's going to be in the National Hockey League next year, especially with where Philly is in their rebuild. He had a lot of great numbers this season as well, guys. In 57 games, he had 37 goals, 61 assists for 98 points, and he also had 9 points in the playoffs as well, which was really good for him. I think, like I said, that he's going to be the face of this franchise moving forward, and not just because he was a first-round pick, but he's a big, tough, physical guy, and that's what Philly wants. They're trying to rebuild that big, physical, mean team to play against that they used to be way back in the 90s and early 2000s, even back to the 70s if you want to go that far. And I feel that they've started that rebuild on the right foot with a guy like Porter Martone. I also feel that Minko and Gard were two of the other players that they really made good picks with, because I feel that those guys are also going to play in the National Hockey League at some point next year as well, whether it's the 9 games or because they're in that rebuild and they're trying to fit guys into slots, maybe they can play more as well. But at least the 9 games, I think those two are going to play in the NHL for the Philly Flyers next year. Nisbilt and Benesai, I feel they're very good picks. They're very talented, and they're also very physical players as well, which, again, fits into what they're trying to build in Philly. I don't think they're quite ready yet, though. I feel that they're probably 2 or 3 years away from being on the NHL squad, but I feel that those two are also NHLers, and the Philly Flyers, guys, like I said, they really changed my mind with what they were doing as a franchise with this draft, and I feel they did an excellent job this season with that. The New York Islanders, guys, a lot of people would have put them at number 1 or at least number 2, but for me, they're at number 3, and mostly because of the fact that they don't really know what they're doing, it seems, quite yet as a franchise in their rebuild. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe they have a perfectly good plan and it's just not apparent to me, but with the whole thing that's going on with Patrick Waugh, he's not the GM's coach and he has a lot of money left on his contract. I'm not sure if the stability is going to be there for a guy like Matthew Schaefer, because of the fact that it's really tough to develop defensemen in this league, and he's had some injury troubles, and with the inconsistency of the potential coach not being there, the potential having to learn a new system right off the bat, it's going to be tough for him. And I feel that the pressure is on him as well. And you've seen it with guys like Dahlin and Power in Buffalo, that sometimes it's really tough to learn how to play in the National Hockey League as a defenseman, especially when your team is expecting you to be defensive. And I'm not saying that he's not. I think he can play physical. He's got the size to do it. At the same time, though, like I said, he's had some injury problems. I do feel that he's going to be able to figure that out potentially, but hopefully his development isn't messed up by the direction that the team is going. I do feel, though, that the other 2 guys in England and Aitchison are really good players as well. They took those 2 in the first round, and especially Eklund, I think that he is going to be ready to go, and he's going to take this team into a better place in terms of his ability to score, and he's very quick as well. I feel that Aitchison is going to be in the same boat, though, as Schaefer. I think that he's a very talented defenseman, but again, it's going to be tough for him to learn with the inconsistencies that I think are going to come with the New York Islanders in the next couple seasons. With that said, though, I do feel that they also made another decent pick in Prokhorov. He's a very underrated player, and I think that he could definitely be in the National Hockey League in the next year or two, and he's a very good pick. And to get 4 in one draft is really hard to do, and that's why, as much as I think that San Jose and Philly did better, I still think the Islanders had a really good draft. I just don't think that their team is moving in as good a direction as those other two teams are with their draft picks. With that said, though, as much as some say I'm a homer, probably, the Calgary Flames also had a very good draft, and that's why, for me, they're at number 4. They got what they wanted in terms of the centerman that they needed. They're obviously probably not going to play much in the National Hockey League next year. They might, in terms of coming in at the end of the year, but they're going to go down and play in the NCAA, and hopefully they develop, and I'm talking about Ricci and Porter. Those two, especially Porter, I think is a steal for this team. He played really, really well for them, or for his team in junior this year, and I really feel that he's going to take it to another level down in the NCAA and learn how to play more against men, the older guys, and it's really going to help his development. And with his speed, I think he's going to be a really dynamic player. I think, to be honest with you, I like him better out of the two of those two in the first round that they took. I also feel that Stockselis is a guy that the Flames can really turn into an important player for them. He has got extremely good skills in front of the net, and I feel that he could be a Gary Roberts type of player. I don't know if that guy kind of works as well in this day and age, but Corey Perry, guys like that were doing an extremely good job of that, and you could see that Corey Perry, with his in-front presence and his skills to work in close, he did a lot of really good things for the Edmonton Oilers. I think with this kid's size and his ability to, like I said, work in front of the net, he's going to really help the Calgary Flames in terms of that, especially kind of like Klepka was doing. And then speaking of him, Phillips was the guy that I felt really was the steal of the draft for the Calgary Flames. He is a big man with a ton of athleticism. His skill set isn't quite there like Klepka, and that's why I think he reminds me more of Klepka. But he's got a ton of athletic skill, and he's huge. And if he can learn how to mend his skills to play in the National Hockey League, especially his puck-moving skills, he is going to be a really dynamic defenseman for the Calgary Flames. And with his size and athleticism, like I said, I think he can be really scary good in the future. With that said, though, the Boston Bruins also had an exceptional draft, in my opinion, and one of the guys, and they took him from a place that is right at home in Boston College. He had a really good season with them guys. 37 games he played with them. He had 11 goals, 26 assists for 37 points. In my opinion, that's really good in the NCAA. And then he had 9 points at the World Juniors this year as well. This young man, I think, in my opinion, has tons of potential, and he drives the play really well, which is something that Boston hasn't had in a long time. And with a guy like Pastrnak, I think that he's going to really elevate Pasternak's game in terms of taking a little pressure away from him. I think, especially if those two play together, they're going to do a really, really good job. And the Boston Bruins are moving in the right direction in terms of their rebuild with James Hagens. Another couple guys that I felt that they really did a good job of picking this year was Moore and Pettersson. I think that they have a chance to play in the National Hockey League next year as well. They have talent and they are NHL ready, in my opinion, in terms of their body and maturity. And they had really good seasons this year as well. And like I said, the Boston Bruins, they're in a rebuild, so I think it's easier for these guys to find slots to play, but at the same time, I think they're going to earn them as well because they are very talented players, especially Moore. And like I said, Hagens is, in my opinion, he reminds me a lot of William Nylander, but tougher. And unfortunately for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they need William Nylander to get a little bit tougher. But Boston, I think, has found a guy that's going to be that guy, and I feel they had a really good draft, guys. So just a little bit of a recap of that. My top 5 was the San Jose Sharks at 1, the Philly Flyers at 2, the New York Islanders at 3, the Calgary Flames at 4, and the Boston Bruins at 5. And I think they had a really good draft. I feel that there was a couple teams that you could slot in there at number 6, but we'll get into that a little bit later, guys. Well, guys, I said that this draft was one of the deeper drafts that we've seen in a long time. There was a ton of talent. There was a ton of good players that really could be NHLers next season and maybe even only a year from now. I feel, though, that there was 5 or 6 teams that really could have done a lot better that did not, and the team at number 6 for me was the Edmonton Oilers. I feel that they really could have done a lot better job. The guys that they picked were good players, but they're guys that potentially are going to be NHLers, and that's 2, 3, 4 years down the road for them at minimum. And I feel that with where they are right now as a cup contender with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid, why aren't you trying to at least pick some guys that are more ready that can help you sooner rather than later? And that's why I think the Oilers were number 6 in the worst draft of this draft. For me, though, guys, the worst 5 teams were the Colorado Avalanche at number 1, the Vegas Golden Knights at number 2, the Winnipeg Jets at number 3, the St. Louis Blues at number 4, and the Minnesota Wild at number 5. And the biggest reason why I picked Colorado as number 1 in teams that had the worst draft of this draft was, one, they only had 3 picks, so it was really hard for them to have a good draft. And then with the 3 picks that they had, they really didn't pick that well. And, you know, Francisco Del Ellis, I feel that he's a good defense or a good offensive defenseman, but I don't feel that that's what the Colorado Avalanche need. I feel that they need a more stay-at-home defenseman. I feel that they have a lot of offensive talent already on their blue line. Why are you adding more when you need better defensive play? Because in my opinion, that's why the Dallas Stars beat them in the playoffs, was because they just weren't a very good defensive team, and they didn't have enough depth either. And I felt that they could have done a lot more. Dallas, I feel he's got a really good shot, and he, like I said, he's a very good offensive defenseman, but he needs work, and I feel that out of all the first-round draft picks, he is the guy that is the furthest away from the NHL, and I don't know how he helps the Colorado Avalanche next year, especially because this is such a tough division, and I feel that Colorado is going to struggle to make the playoffs this year. I said that in previous show, and I honestly do. I feel that the Colorado Avalanche might be one of the teams in the Central this year that don't make the playoffs, and I think that this draft is a reflection of that. Cale Makar and McKinnon are only 2 guys. You need more. Yes, Natchez had 83 points if you add up all his points from last year, but I feel that he's a guy that's hit or miss, and they might not get the best out of him. I feel that their depth is very much lacking in Colorado, and they needed something, and I don't think that Dallas is that guy. I do feel that the Vegas Golden Knights at number 2 picked a guy that potentially could really make me eat my words at some point in time, but I feel that his inconsistent play is what got them on the list, and mostly, again, same thing as Colorado. I feel that this team is kind of in a retooling phase. They still want to be a playoff team, but they just don't have enough prospects. They don't have enough good players depth-wise, and I feel that they really needed to add something, whether it was through the draft or using their draft to get some younger guys to come in to help them now. And I don't think they did that with this draft at all. Don't get me wrong. Ice Wozniak is a very good player, and he had some good moments this season. I felt that in the J20 when he was in Sweden, he played 40 games there. He had 23 goals, 34 assists for 57 points, and he had 7 points at the World Juniors as well, which is very good. But then when he went to the SHL, which is the top pro league in Sweden, he only had 2 points in 13 games, and he looked very lost, very poor. So if Vegas is bringing him in to play in the National Hockey League next year, I don't think he's going to make it. I don't even think he's going to be able to play 9 games at a good, consistent level, and I feel that he's a guy that needs more time in the juniors or with Henderson. And Henderson is not a good team right now either, because let's be honest, the Vegas Golden Knights have just not invested enough in their depth and their prospect pool. And even adding Weirmeyer, I feel that, same thing. He's just inconsistent. He had a great season in Portland, which is what they might have saw from him, especially in the playoffs. He had 23 points in 18 games, 10 goals and 13 assists in 10 games in the playoffs with Portland Winterhawks. But at the same time, at the University of Denver this year, he played 9 games with them and only had 2 points. So was that league too much for him? And again, is he going to be able to come help the Vegas Golden Knights right now? No. And I think it's probably 2-3 years at best with him, and that's unfortunate for the Vegas Golden Knights because, like I said, I feel they need to retool a lot. The Winnipeg Jets are number 3 on my list, and kind of the same thing. I feel that Sasha Boumedienne he's a guy that's a future prospect, and they need some guys now. And they could have traded that pick away for something better that's a prospect that's maybe closer to the NHL right now, and there's a lot of teams that have prospects that are that they could have worked with. I feel that he's a guy that he could take some big minutes, and he is a decent defenseman, a very good stay-at-home defenseman, which is what Winnipeg in more ways than one needs, but I don't think he's ready. I really don't. I don't think he's ready, and I feel the same thing with Owen Martin. I feel that they could have got a guy that's way closer to being ready for the NHL than what they got in him, and because he's just not ready, in my opinion. When it comes to St. Louis Blues, though, at number 4, this one was tough because you could have put them a little higher. They only had 3 picks, though, and I felt that they didn't do much with those 3 picks. I do feel that Justin Carbono, he's good. He's a very good player. I think, though, his ceiling's a top 6 guy. I don't think he's going to be a star. And I feel that St. Louis is kind of in that same thing where they need to either rebuild or retool. I feel that 12-game winning streak was the only reason they made the playoffs this season. And I felt that they're doing a disservice by really only drafting a guy that's a potential top 6 guy, in my opinion. And that's at best. I don't think he's ever going to be a star. And then Fedorov, I'm not sure. He's a young Russian prospect that you haven't seen much of, and his stats are a little bit misleading, but he could be potentially good. And then they took a young goalie who you never know with goalies. They could be great, they could not be. And that's why, like I said, I feel that with the regression of St. Louis and the fact that they're going to have to either rebuild or retool, they did not have a good draft, and they could have definitely moved some guys around to get more picks for this draft, especially because it was such a deep draft, and I feel they failed to do so, and unfortunately that's why they're at number 4. Like I said, they could have been maybe a little bit higher. I felt that Winnipeg and Vegas did worse than they did just because of the fact that they are teams that are contenders that really should have been adding more depth to their team, and they didn't as well. But And with that said, St. Louis is a team that, like I said, needs to retool or rebuild, and I don't think that they helped themselves out with this draft at all. And at number 5 was Minnesota, and the same kind of thing. I feel that they're a team they're good enough to make the playoffs, and I think they will in this division. They'll definitely be playing for that wild card spot again, I think. I think in the playoffs they proved that they were a lot better than what they finished. I think that they had some problems at times in the season. But at the same time, they're a team that same kind of thing. They're kind of in need of a little bit of a retool. They have some really good talent there, but I feel that Hellquist, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I feel that they took him too early, and I feel that he might improve in the SHL, but I think he was taken way too early, and he's a fringe NHLer, and they could have made a lot better picks with that pick that they had, and then Bennick, I think, is just too small. I really do. At 5'7", you got to be really, really, really good to make it in the NHL at 5'7", and I'm not saying that he can't. I'm not saying that he never will, but that's a stretch, and I just don't think that that's a guy that Minnesota needs, especially with the type of game that they play as well. They play a big physical game, and to add a player with that size to their team, I don't think helps them out at all, and that's why I rank them number 5. But I do feel that this was a very good draft, guys, and I do feel that there is a couple teams that really had some interesting things that they did in this draft, and we're going to go on to that. So to wrap up this draft conversation, guys, I just want to throw in some little things here at the end. Obviously, there's some decent trades here that happened in the draft. Montreal and the Islanders obviously was an awesome trade. I feel both teams got fair value for the trade. The only thing that I didn't like about it was I feel that they re-signed Dobbs for a little bit too much. I don't like that price tag, but I could be proven wrong just because of the simple fact that he is a right shot defenseman, and he did have 70 points at one point in time. And playing with Hudson, I think that could potentially get him back to close to 70 points at some point in time. But I don't know if they'll play him on the power play much, and that's where I feel that it's a stretch for him to get back to 70 points. Potentially, though, he could be a lot better fit there, and maybe he is the missing piece on defense. And let's be honest, I feel that their top 4 is going to be very good now with the addition of him. I do also feel that Nashville made a very good move in terms of bringing in Hag, mostly because of the simple fact that there is a lot of questions around Roman Josi. I know that they haven't ruled him out from coming back, but I do feel that it is a little bit nerve-wracking for them not knowing if he's going to be healthy or not, and bringing in Hag I think is a very good deal for him. He's a big man, and I feel that he's going to help with what they were lacking in terms of having a defensive defenseman on this team, and I feel Vegas really lost a really good player with him. I feel that Pittsburgh made a steal picking Kindle. I know that maybe I'm a little bit biased being a Calgary Hitman fan, but I feel that this guy is a pure goal scorer, and I feel that he was only touching the beginning of his potential this season. And playing with a guy like Sidney Crosby, I think he could really, really flourish, and I feel that that's a great steal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I feel the Kraken had a really good draft. I feel they were number 6 in terms of my list of teams that had the best draft. I really like Jake O'Brien. I feel he can play either as a center or as a wing, and I don't feel that Wright is a center, so I feel that having that right-handed shot of O'Brien's is really going to be beneficial to the Kraken. They do have a ton of centers on that team, but again, I feel that they can move some guys around to make things work, and he's a right-handed shot, so that really helps. I also feel that some of the signings that were made today were very good, and that, you know, The only one I didn't like is Bouchard. I don't feel he's a $10 million guy, and I'll get into that in a later date. But I do feel that this was an unbelievable draft. And the next show, guys, I hope you tune into it. I'm going to talk about free agency and what happened after it tomorrow. Obviously, it's not going to be the end of free agency after tomorrow, but most of the big stuff happens in the first couple hours, if not the first day, and I'm going to get into that tomorrow. And I hope that you guys tune in. I hope that you liked what we did today, and I hope you subscribe and share, like, all those things, and have a good one.